To create a sense of community and family that is inclusive and allows people to heal from their brokenness and feel loved is so important to us.
Welcome, I'm Craig Young, and this is the Going Home Show, a place where we look at people, families, ministries, and churches, and see where God is moving through His people.
Have you ever danced on a cloud? Have you ever touched heaven, never wanna come down?
Obviously, we always say that prayer makes a difference and prayer changes things, but we should really believe it because it does.
Your kingdom come, your will be done.
There were times in the winter where we'd have the doors propped open and it was like steam was pouring out. It was just sick. It was really gross. But it was wonderful days and just a lot of excitement and.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Going Home Show here with Pastor Andy Moore. Thank you, Andy, for just coming by, and we're excited. We got to get going. We got a lot of stuff to cover.
Okay, well, Adore has, I think it's about a 7-year history now. We started 7 years ago with just an idea, and about 25 people met in the basement of Glad Tidings Church just to kind of meet for worship. And so we kind of had 3 components when we first started. It was about worship, it was about giving financially, so we looked for a place to give, and it was about prayer. We used to meet on top of Mount Tomey for prayer. And it was kind of the bird's eye view of the city, rain or shine. There was people meeting there on a specific night, every week. So that's where it all began. What started happening, kind of the way that it morphed, is people started telling us that Adore was their church, and Adore, actually it started with worship, so Adore, the name was very appropriate at the time.
And was this on a Thursday?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thursday night at 8 o'clock.
Wow. Yeah.
So we were pretty tied in with our time frame in terms of who would come. So it was those who had flexible schedules, those who maybe worked days, students who didn't mind staying up. I didn't even start preaching till 9 o'clock or so, and it was 10:30 before we were walking out of the doors. So that actually became part of the DNA of who we were as we kind of developed. So what ended up happening is in the basement, 25 people, kind of ebbed and flowed for a year or so, and then it started to blossom, and we had to kick out some walls and get as much space as we could downstairs in this basement. And there were times in the winter where we'd have the doors propped open and it was like steam was pouring out. It was just sick. It was really gross. But it was wonderful days and just a lot of excitement. And we started noticing people were saying, "This is my church," and so we really began to explore what it means to be someone's church. It was something we took seriously, and it was.
So how did you explore that? Like, what are some of the things that you did? And
we thought, if people are coming here and this is their church, then they need to have a sense of what community is really all about. And that's a word we use on a number of levels, but really it's about the gathering of God's people and understanding that relationships should flow out of that, needs can be met from that, and people can feel supported in their life. We also started dealing with the issues of discipleship. How are we helping people know Jesus, and how are we helping them grow in their faith? So I've always called Adore a divine accident. It just kind of started. We just started worshiping, and
that's the best.
Yeah, it was one of those things that was really exciting. Those early days were just such a thrill, honestly. So what ended up happening is we just began to define ourselves with some really important words like community and participation and missional living, and these things begin to define how the community develops. So people started meeting together in small groups. We gave a lot more attention to the Word. Prayer changed to being on site, on location. And that has stayed throughout our history.
I hear that just with all the different church planners, pastors I've been speaking with. When we talk about the early times of really getting going, prayer seems to be just a real foundation piece.
That's true, and it's something that obviously we always say that prayer makes a difference and prayer changes things, but we should really believe it, because it does. And we're seeing it again even just now with some of the stuff that's developing with our youth ministry, just a real passion for prayer. They have a Tuesday morning prayer meeting at like 6:30, and it's just blossoming and growing. And
6:30 in the morning.
6:30.
Young people.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. Seriously.
That's awesome.
It's really growing. It's been pretty exciting. So anyway, Adore outgrew that room. We went upstairs into the gym and stayed there for a couple of years, and it got later and later and later in the evenings when we were starting, and we were doing lots of weddings, and people were finding each other in community. And then
so they're growing up. Everyone's
getting older.
Yeah.
And people are getting married, and they're starting to have babies, and they're saying, I can't come anymore I can't stay till 10:30 on a Thursday night with a newborn. We just have to get home. We tried doing nursery. It didn't work. So we kind of were at a crossroads with Adore, and we decided, man, we're going to have to make a big jump, and that was to change our meeting time, our meeting day, and our meeting location. And we did it all in one big move. We were still on the same campus, but we were moving into the large auditorium, which literally seats between 12 and 1,400 people. And we were.
So that's a big move from the basement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from the basement, but then also just even from the gym, we were running somewhere around 200, 225.
Yeah.
And it was like all of a sudden we're going to go into an auditorium where we'll have 1,000 empty seats. What is that going to feel like, right? So it was a big step of faith. We mobilized the community. We said we need everybody's help. And when we launched the first night, we more than doubled. We grew over 100% immediately, and kind of maintained that growth throughout that year, and then have steadily grown. And now the community is somewhere around 700.
So Andy, you're talking about discipleship and rise. You got a lot of leaders going on. What does that discipleship look like?
It's multi-leveled. So like we have low levels of commitment from some of our volunteers, and then extremely high levels of commitment. And it all just depends on where people are at. Like the way we always start with any person who says like, hey, I want to grow, or I want to be involved, or I want to make friends in this community. Often you would think we would first suggest Connect Groups, which is our small group network. But actually first we suggest team, serving on team.
Because that makes a lot of sense.
Man, there's no better way to get to know people and to find people with common interest if you find a place to serve where you can follow your heart into something that you enjoy. And then you look around and there's people here that feel the same way about that particular task.
Yeah.
So our leadership development is kind of starts there. Serve on team.
So talk to me about you as a leader. How would you describe your leadership style?
I'm a dreamer, so I'm a visionary, and that stuff comes easy to me. I'm not good with the practical nuts and bolts, the processes that actually create functionality, and so I know that about myself. So I'm the idea person, so I like to be in the room, I like to be in many of the meetings, but I'm not the one to work out the plans. So it's been important for me to find people who I can work with. My strengths are strategic planning and a vision and positivity. Those are kind of the things that I think I bring to the table.
How important was it for you to be able to define some of those strengths and weaknesses in being in ministry?
Well, you live a life of frustration as a young leader because you see other people and you desire to emulate them, but your gift mix doesn't match theirs. And so it is so very important to be able to say who you are and who you're not, because then that allows God to then work within your frame of reference to say, this is a person you need on your team. This is a person you need to develop. These are the kind of people you're looking for because it's not where you have strength. And also it just makes you feel okay about yourself because you're not supposed to be everything. You're a part of the body as well as a leader.
All right. So Adore, now meeting and gathering, being church. talk to us about today. What's happening at Adore?
Yeah, I mean, the community is quite diverse now. It's interesting how it has grown up and changed a lot. It's still a place where many university students gather. And so our demographics is still basically young adults. But it's incredible to see how many children we have.
Yeah, you have, you actually have two big friends that come to the door once in a while. What are their names again?
Maddie and Melanie. They're kind of these life-size puppets, and they lead the kids to their various classes.
Yeah. And we were there with the kids and everything like that, and just you have like a whole program going on there. Lots of young families bringing kids.
Yeah, that's been an exciting addition. We had some families that as they got married and had kids, they left Adore, and when we made the shift to Sunday nights and when we offered children's programming, it was an easy move for them to join us again, and so I think that really helped us. So we're committed to our kids ministry, and there's 50, 60 kids that come, and so we're very excited about that. And we also have a large group of people in recovery. We run Celebrate Recovery at the church, which is it's a Christ-centered 12-step idea.
Yeah, there's a number of churches that throughout BC, I guess. That,
yeah, and we've just found that to be incredible. Whenever we have a baptismal service, there's kind of like 3 sections. There's people who have just come to Christ through Adore. There's a whole crew of people from Celebrate Recovery, and there's usually a crew from ESL because we have some ESL classes as well. And so kind of combining all 3 of those together, that really, I think, kind of is a recognizable demographic in terms of who currently right now is finding faith through Adore.
So, Andy, talk to us more about family, your family. Mm-hmm. What does that look like in ministry, and a bit of that story?
Sure. Well, I have a very unique family scenario. I have 4 kids, wonderful kids. They're awesome. I've got a 10-year-old daughter. I've got an 8-year-old stepson, and I've got 2 younger daughters as well. One that's 2.5 and one that's 10 months. And the reason why I mention it, I don't ever call my stepson except in this context, so that we can kind of understand that we have a blended family. Mm-hmm. I had a child, my wife had a child, and we came together a few years ago to make our current family of 6. And that was out of a very kind of painful season in both of our lives and other scenarios where things didn't go well, marriages collapsed, there was a lot of pain involved. And I think that puts a higher priority for us on what we currently have, what we enjoy, and how we build into our family. And it also really affects the way that we pastor, because we really care about single parents. The church itself has really been designed, not to any fault, but it's been designed around the kind of atypical family scenario.
Yes.
And we recognize that that's not always the case for people. And so I know what it feels like to sit in church as a single dad, longing to have a relationship that I don't have, feeling the brokenness and loss, and yet wanting to find family and community. And so I think that affects the way I communicate. I think it affects the way we develop Adore. And we're just recognizing that over 50% of our population, especially within Adore, I would say more like 75 to 80% of Adore, are single people. And people are remaining single much longer. Some people never marry. Some people have tragedy in their lives and end up alone. And so to create a sense of community and family that is inclusive and allows people to heal from their brokenness and feel loved is so important to us. It's something that we really do work hard at. We want to exemplify it in our family, and we want to share it publicly. So yeah, that's an important part of our family.
Thanks. All right, Going Home Show, another week, hearing about Adore and how it all started. Pastor Andy, thank you for giving us a peek, a glimpse of the kingdom, what God's doing. I have one last question. Andy, where are you going?
I'm going home.
Don't get hands up, I just don't care. We're going home. We're